Hello everyone. So today we'll be talking about the shaping of modern Manipur, and I'll be inviting a research scholar. So I'm just waiting for him to join. So just waiting. I studied history as in my BA, in my graduation. So okay,
Yeah.
finally okay.
Hi.
Hello.
Yeah, hello. Yeah,
Hi.
hi.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah.
our guest has tuned in. So
Okay.
I'll just introduce him. His name is Mutum Kennedy Singh, and he's a research scholar in Delhi University. So I've pursued history as a in my undergrad, and so I've always had a lifelong, interest and fascination in learning more about it. But in
Yeah.
my own pursuit of history, we learned about Indian history, world history, European history, American history. But I
Yeah.
always felt that, Manipuri history was something which was missing in my life. And I did a little bit of self-education. I read a few books, a few articles online, but I always felt that, basic understanding was missing. So I thought it would be really nice to talk to someone who has researched upon it and give us a broad outline of how Manipur history, has been shaped in the modern times. So can you
Yeah.
just tell us a little bit about, your own, how did you start studying about history and, anything about that?
Yeah. Well, actually, when I first came to Delhi University, to for my undergrad, I'm sure you can hear me.
Yeah. Can you just be a
Okay.
little bit louder? Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So, I mean, I had a you know intuition for the social sciences. I
Mm-hmm.
wasn't too good in science or math, and I never took that much interest in other things. I liked my interest was more towards literature and history and things like law.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, it made sense to me that I would further down the line take something like that.
Okay.
So yeah, and on this issue of opting to study history of Manipur and the entire Northeast, like whatever little contribution that I could make, this was not an easy choice, in the sense that our syllabus in Delhi University
Mm-hmm.
did not cover anything on the Northeast or Manipur. So that made it much more difficult for us to kind of engage with the existing literature. The Delhi University the Thai history the Manipur ki history natraga Northeast ki history se hujibok the yaw deva.
Mm-hmm.
Ado Delhi University ki nataba JNU the shu dum yaw deva.
Mm-hmm.
Ado yaw dabanina for a early career researcher research ngan tawkhalakpa singi oina di yam wana thoeva.
Mm.
The discipline manung duda we are kind of subaltern in the discipline itself.
Yeah.
Sideline tauroga laibado, and like there was this attitude that Manipur was always like in the frontier region. I mean the
Mm-hmm.
usual understanding is that, or if I could use words of Amitabh Ghosh, he would say that people would believe that certain geographies were outside the pale of larger meta historical events.
Mm-hmm.
The achau
Yeah, as though
historical
we have been suspended in time, and somehow time has always been the same, and we have continued in the same kind of milieu for centuries and centuries, and somehow there has been no linear progression of our history. So yes,
yeah.
that is
Yes, yeah.
definitely there.
Yeah, exactly. So, and to my utter surprise, when I started, researching history of, Manipur and Burmese and East India Company, I found out that, actually Manipur occupied a very central role in, the East India Company's policy, so far as trying to create a, stable, military and political administrative infrastructure in the Northeast.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and I mean, still now I get questions, not from laymen, but even from historians that, okay, so what was the relationship of Manipur with the Mughals? Did the Mughals ever had any sort of influence? So there's this thinking that Indian history is kind of North Indian centric.
Yes.
Yeah. I think North India, the Mughal history, the Indian history is Luoiba. If there is anything called Indian history have a potu lai poto. We can talk about world history, global history, connected history. So it makes it much more difficult for us to kind of convince people that Manipur's kind of historical orientation has been towards more towards the east. Chahi Taret.
Yes.
The Burma, Burma room
side. Southeast Asia.
Southeast Asia. Akoi the adugi cultural connection, adugi historical political connection though kenuta weba. So no one would know if I say this that one of the Manipuri Manipuri princess was married to 3 consecutive Burmese emperor.
Okay.
So yeah, her name was Mahadevi. Like in the Burmese sources, she was called Mahadevi, and she was niece of the Meitei king Garib Niwas. Garib Niwas ki machanupi ne ba mado. So Garib Niwas was someone like who was almost an emperor-like figure. The Manipur ki history, the emperor-like figure hai di man ahan bane hai tare. Yeah, even though like he has a very contested legacy, in terms of like burning Puya Maithagi Kutki, then religious conversion, adu gi matang da. Yeah. So like what I would do is I'll start from a particular topic, then like we'll progress gradually to
we'll just have a broad outline of the shaping of modern Manipur, and when would you actually say that it began? Like when would you say, like, did any event or did any kind of incident precipitate the beginning of this?
Yeah, I think I would say that the first Anglo-Burmese War kind of was a pivotal moment in the making of early modern Manipur, or even I could maybe stretch that argument to say that even for modern Manipur, because historically the boundaries that were created during after the Anglo-Burmese War, first Anglo-Burmese War, akoi Manipur gi hujik laiba boundary se first Anglo-Burmese War gi matung de laiba boundary dugi adum chawrakna adum manaba jaga ne ba contigu haidi kesu thoidongna hong ba laite ba. So basically first Anglo-Burmese War si yam maru oye ba akoi Manipur history understand tauge haiba matamda. So initially what happened was, like, in the late 18th century, Manipur kind of became a vassal state of Burma. And this was in contrast to the earlier part of 18th century, 1720s, the 30s, adudagi matungda, Manipur kind of became a Southeast Asian regional power, regional power. Then like Garib Niwas almost like captured the Burmese capital. He invaded, many of the towns and, destroyed Burmese pagodas. The Burmese key places of worship. Just as in Indian history, you have, Mohammedans or Turkish invaders coming in and destroying Hindu temples. So Garib Niwas also kind of did that with the Burmese, pagodas. So the conflict between Manipur and Burma always took a religious kind of tone. The Burmese like they made it very clear that they would love to convert the Manipuri elites and the Manipuri court to Buddhism, and so does the Manipuris. Adana kaidawgeda akoigi Garib Niwas ek shigi matung degi di politically we were so divided, and in Burma there was a very important ruler called Alongphaya. Or like Burmese maming the hierarchy my maming se along mintaya hai ado masina Manipur se invade tawbala ado invade tawbala ko matam sida this Burmese emperor married the queen that I mentioned before.
Okay, Mahadevi. The daughter of Garib Niwas.
Yeah, the daughter of Garib Niwas. And I feel that he did this to sort of acquire some legitimacy, in the sense that Garib Niwasi sigi kaino sida Chinwin gi jaga haidi Shan gi jaga Upper Burma gi jaga saiwai adagi Manipur, then Kasar saiwai sida he was considered as almost an emperor like figure hai tare. So Burmese kind of have a very bad memory of him, as a very ruthless, military commander and a conqueror.
Okay.
So that sort of gave him a legitimacy. Aduna Manipur la agamana invade tawbakanda kai haige habakanda. Hojiki Burmese kanosina emperors in one of the Burmese texts kai haige da koi tamurum dagi Manipur da sum lakpo matam sida u sing sida Buddha gi kanosi images sing si loina carved tawi. Then Manipur gi lairiba politically unstable oiba haidi political Game of Thrones tawi da man intervene tawbagi magi imperative to kai hane explain tawge haibada. Since he is married to a Manipuri queen, he felt that it was imperative, for him to intervene in the situation. Haidi imong manung khana bada khamdok pada unaman interpret taweba.
Okay. Very
So,
interesting. Yes.
Yeah. So I guess like it's not only modern politician, who has huge PR machinery and try to spin a story in a certain way. Even medieval monarchs kind of did that with the court scholars. Court scholar mo laising do ta hon bada do
Yeah. Hoy.
Yeah.
That's really interesting.
Hoy. Aduga 18th century gi losalak paswai bai sidigi laiba political instabilities na koi si Manipur dagi chain bahore haidi flee taw bahore. I mean historically if I have to think of this thing in terms of any parallel, then haidi the modern state of Israel dagi nangi Jewish mayam historically Jewish diaspora Europe
Okay,
loina chatkibado adugi type ta chatkibane ba
so is this what is called Chahi Taret Khuntakpa? Is this the time when in our like mythology, it's almost mythologized in Manipur, the period of Chahi Taret Khuntakpa? So would this come under that?
I think it's on a continuum of those events, but I won't say that this is part of that, because Chahi Taret Khuntakpa or 7 Years Devastation was slightly different matter. Yeah, different matter. Different matter in the sense that Burmese kind of controlled Manipur through its own rulers. For example, Manipurda Marjitsi, he was a vassal of the Burmese king. Ado akoigi Manipur gi ningthau Marjit Singh si masi kenogi Burmese ki vassals ruler neba. Ado what became different in the period of Chahi Taret Khuntakpa was the fact that for the first time Burmese started having their own troops in Imphal Valley. In Imphal Valley, the moigi own troops, my own commanders thammaga they had a garrison in Imphal.
Okay.
So earlier di the indirect rule tau bane basum magi influence sum exercise tau bai wane ba adu moina direct adu maina laga physically occupy tau raga state ki day to day affair to the kuthingjan badi na ta
okay
aduga but Chahi Taret Khuntakpa di adugi kuthingjan bagi tanja duma pire adu pira bani na da many of Manipuris were captured as slaves and taken to Burma's capital. The Burmagi capital, the Moidu cavalry soldier ohen mani khangde, because Manipuris had a very fearsome reputation of being very dangerous horsemen. The cavalry force, it was very feared throughout the upper Burma and even in the Burmese capital region. Aduna Burmese ki da moigi early East India Company ki officials in Burmese ki cavalry se laga court ki ritual de observe ta wakanda Meitei gi sing do akoigi cavalry men sing do yam ornamented oina ubagi moina hedi ritual ma the context ma do ubagi moina toramba sketch adigi painting sing do yam ta we haitare battle fatigue ta oiganda ba yam ceremonial do oiganda do
okay
yam ornamented oirga ui haitare admaina do. So aduna da like Chahi Taret Khuntakpa sigi matamda akoigi slave oina faraga pugiba mayam si I think it's almost like a Holocaust experience for us.
Okay.
If I had to compare this with events from world history. The Manipur Valley, the Burmese sing se tanthokra matung the population of the valley was only somewhere around 2,000 or 3,000. I the name valley population se.
Okay.
Because Chittagong da adegi Silheta adegi Kasar da akoi di loina adi lanche laga chatkreba. So what happened is that during that period this whole area of Chittagong and Arakan si se Portuguese sing na slave trading to bugi yam na keno to ba jaga ne ba slave trading yam active oi ba jaga ne ba moi na Portuguese sing na ke do ge da khoi gi moi gi sugar plantations in Indonesia da adegi Southeast Asia da moi gi laiba sing ji gi da makta Bengali natraga khoi ya Meitei khoi keno ya indentured labor admaina slave sing je pura chat labor dum lairaga ado admaina tawbudu da I came upon a report, a slavery report, which suggested that Manipuris were very much targeted by the slave merchants because we were so poor. We were dispossessed. Then they didn't have enough money, to feed their own children. So it was, I mean, even Burma pura chat slave sing so we have to remember the fact that a historical mythology the nan ngasai haibado the 7 year devastation almost a historical event not tabado na mythologized we habado.
Yes.
Yeah, so part of that mythology is the fact that a khutta yairi tharaga pugi kind of haibado like khut is maina khut laga the chain taraga pugi bado. So Burma gi capital region yodring the mayam sushi do ne balamdi da do because the travel from Manipur Valley to the Burmese capital region was a brutal one. Haidi Kenona Samna Haida Adugi Matamduda 1825-26 Highway colonial account nama Bakwagi Manipur independent Oirakanda Langthabal Degina Keno Bhokta Koi Kabo Valley Bhokta Chatpagi Lambi se there's a very rich description of this road Haitare by a British Firangi officer. So East India Company से मणिपुर की historical sources सिंग द कनो है बा फिरंगी कंपनी है वो कोई ना अतो फिरंगी कोई कंपनी साहिब सिंग से फिरंगी साहिब है वो ना अतो फिरंगी साहिब से ना कनो देगी कोई की लंथबाल देगी ना कबो बुक चट पसी द we get a sense of how difficult the travel is. समूह मथक तो ओंगा चट तो ने बा अतो समूह मथक तो ओंगा चट पसी द बुक the road was so bad. Adugi wabuduneba aduda nangi khong chalhalli neba slave sing aduna aduna aduda sum travel the sum am adum shirabaneba. So that's why I mean sometime when I read the report it becomes a very emotional kind of experience for me too adi khalu bakanda adi o koi sishmaina aduki matik wabazani haiba poto. But what eventually changed this dynamic was the fact that the Burmese were now not only eager to assert their imperial dominance in Manipur, but they had imperial designs on other kingdoms in the northeast, such as Kasar and Ahom. Upper Assam the Ahom Singh Sisu, Adegi Keno Singh Sisu, Kasargi kingdom. Then in Chittagong area, Chittagong Kenoga Arakan Tainaba Jagas the Burmese had kind of conflict with the East India Company.
So
the Burmese
at this point of time, just to interject, at this point of time, did the Manipuri ruler stay on in Manipur or did he flee to some other place?
Usually, like during this period, like this period. By this period, I mean first Anglo-Burmese Wars, Mamangi period. We were kind of refugees. Masagi kingdom laitaba adegi masagi homeland laitaba aduna Silet ka Kasar ga sidane ba ayambana leise and to some extent Chittagong so aduna sida lanche laga laibane ba koi se lanche laga yamna impoverished oina laiba community ni akoi se aduga akoi gi kenon sing da nupa sing akoi gi society gi Manipuri Meitei sing na kaidauge haiba matamda hingnabai da makta military service tawbugumba haidi Kasargi court
mercenaries.
We were mercenaries so we served as mercenary before we even like had any relationship with the East India Company in that sense. Okay, the Kenosi I'm kind of jumping back and forth a bit with the timeline, but I'm sure you'll excuse me. Even though Ahanba East India Company ga koi Manipur ga lainaba relationship se 1762 the first one signed tawhibo etaga so Maharaj Gambhir Singh ga adugi matung digi the relationship se nothing came out of that treaty haitare. So and even the East India Company was kind of not interested in venturing out to more frontier areas. Haidi matamsida East India Company gi moigi stronghold se Sylhet oidoineba. Hujik na Bangladesh ta leido se East Bengal da ko. Sylhet ki jaga sida ki moine hena interior jaga da push tawbodo it didn't make sense to them haitare because they were after all a trading merchant company. Their only motive was profit. Yeah. Aduna revenue rich oidaba jaga adugi potential laitaba then the huge expanse of area adugi administrative cost ne hena moida mangjabu oidoineba. But that sort of dynamics changed after the first Anglo-Burmese War. Yeah. Aduna first Anglo-Burmese War sida akoi gi Manipur gi role si kaino haiba poto aina haipet define tarokanda I think we'll get to understand more haitare. Ado kada first Anglo-Burmese War sida kainona company gi higher officials singna moigi bureaucracy singna samaina khalleba that in the entire northeast region the Manipuris were the only viable military ally. Adu kaigino na haiba matamda even the Ahom state Upper Assam the Ahom gi rulers sing sisu moisu they were facing rebellions moi gi the internal administration the rebellion ta ubugi moi administration the loina taure and the downfall taure then Burmese sing na moi gi so capture taure moi gi capital so adegi di Manipur gi su the kasar da lairiba akoi gi Manipuri ruling princess sing Gambhir Singh then Chaurajit Marjit moi hum sina they like initially we were kind of guests in Kasar akoi do guests oina lakpane ba Kasar da and we were serving as mercenaries for the Kasari kingdom but slowly and steadily we kind of took control of Kasar the Kasar si akoi gi Meitei princess Singh sina control taureba and they divided the territory amongst themselves aduduna now the imminent threat to the company na sigi matang sida kaidawgi intervene tawning haiba poto the Burmese gi against ta kay di Kasar dagi natraga Upper Assam dagi Brahmaputra turen sida sum hi thawdarak pakanda kaino si tarakadoi neba East Bengal si tarakadoi neba
okay
Surma turen ga adagi Brahmaputra river si sum thawdarak pakanda aduna East India Company gi yamna lucrative oiba Bengal kaino si province si directly threatened tarakadra haiba gi anxiety duna kaino si yamna proactive oiba military kaino do decision the law bune haitare so in this whole scheme of things Manipuri princess sing sigi marakta moi khalleba karam bagano khoine negotiate tawdoi se who should we negotiate with who is the most talented who is the most powerful and enterprising one amongst these Manipuri rulers the East India Company had no trust in the Ahom or either the Kasaris because their opinion was that the Ahoms were very non-martial and they non-martial oi moi ade Kasari sing su timid oi adegi Nagas adegi Cookies leiba sing do matam do moi do warfare gi the technology da yamna aduki matik chaukhate yamna rudimentary level of social evolution the lay in a khanbado aduga in contrast to that Manipuris were kind of seen as the eastern Rajputs haitare so the northeastern martial kind of the interpret tawbado so aduduna akoi do martial oi natraga oi de haibumaki argument nataba but the point is the point is the perception because adugi matam sida 1820s 30s ki matam sida East India Company gi recruitment si it was dominated by upper caste Hindus upper caste Rajputs and Bhumihars haitare degi Eastern UP degi ade Bihar degi aduna East India Company's gi conception of who makes a good soldier adugi perception to the akoi gi social criteria do chana haitare
fulfill
tawbado because Meiteis were upper caste at that point then they were very particular about their hygiene because military the barracks the pakanda yamna close quarter the pakanda hygiene wa laga the diseases ki yamna aki balai spread tawpagi epidemic kumba aduna adegi Meitei sing se they have been fighting the Burmese for almost 2-3 centuries so enemy of enemy is my friend haibuduneba.
Mm.
Adana Burmese singi quite staunch enemy haragadi koi Meitei Manipuri sing sineba. Aduduna they thought adu khakta sunatana haidi Manipuris were already kind of serving as mercenaries haitare in Khasi Hills, then in Kasar, in Chittagong, in Sylhet, haidi Zamindar Singhi, Sylhet ta haragana Zamindar Singhi moigi private police force in akoi dum thapak tauba. So soldiering was something of a natural fit for the Manipuri Meitei. Yeah. Aduduna kaidaugi haiba matamda first Anglo-Burmese Wars hanba sokna nabagi tauba matamsida kaino sina East India Company na quite hana linkatpa regiment si kaino neba the Sylhet Light Infantry hena malayeba. So Sylhet Light Infantry si hanba linkatpa matamda mi chani yankai chahum si Meitei ata oeba. Sylhet laiba Meitei ata ni aduga even moigi kaino si native officer haina category khar laiba jamadar gumba subedar gumba haidi moisi in between category haitare ne kaigino di proper commission officer to the British na tragedi yadeva dui matam duda aduna native officers sing dusu even akoi gi Meitei prince adigi kitang lai su haiba kitang haidi kaino organize tauba haiba kaino sing du ohelle moina aduga Sylhet Light Infantry sida mayam recruit tawre Meitei sing se haidi Burmese sing se lan sokna namne haidana kai aduga even kaino dasu Arakan local battalions dasu Meitei mayam recruit tawre moina haidi even lan se sokna is a front ani dane haidare Arakan Chittagong frontier da ma northeast from da ma aduna animaki frontier sida akoi Manipuri sing we were like well represented in this whole scheme of things.
Okay.
Yeah. Aduna kaidogeda kaino si akoi gi Manipuri sing si matamduda moina report sum lawbudu da haidi moi si soldier oina kramaina tawi koli adudu na aina sum report pa matam sa ayamba matam na positive kaino adum phangi haitare that Manipuris make excellent soldier they have well drilled discipline yam lay koli adudu na dum haeba ada si haidi flexibility this one lay haitare because when the company recruits somebody moi di private kanoni trading company ni paisa yari ke chang dana bu honar ka doini aduna kai dauge ha kanda moina troops khara recruit taw matamda aina season adu troops si kaino da entire nangi stretch of kaino da northeast season aba yagadra moi si Assam da season aba yagadra Manipur da su thaba yagadra adegi Chittagong da su thaba yagadra Sylhet da su thaba yagadra Arakan su thaba yagadra ina khanba kanda Manipuri sing na dugi criteria si kramaina meet tawge ha kanda akoi gi Manipur Valley dagi lan chelaga labnina they have been settling down in this Bengali dominated kaino haitare areas Bengali dominated oiba Sylhet kumba Chittagong kumba da or adegi Kasar da akoi gi kaino sing Kasari sing laiba sing dugi marakta sum laiba dagi bilingual oibase bilingual natraga multilingual oibase so even that is a factor
played an important
yeah it played a very important role because kaino da mamang da company na akoi gi chingi jaga dagi troops recruit tawba kanda order piba kanda gyan ta daba adagi moi gi lairiba jaga dagi mapan da di moi se campaign amada thawa matam da lonely phawna bagi problem leiba adubu Manipuri sing adugi matam da East India Company na recruit tawba sing dudi they spoke all the languages of Hindustan the Hindustan gi languages mayam du loina khangi na moi report ta yaweba
okay
so aduduna I mean this is my understanding haitare aduduna moi recruit tawram bane na adugi mathakta lan chelaga lakpa community ni yam impoverished oirabni na moi da adudagi hena lucrative oiba kaino du su udabagi neba option do yeah so adumaina tawraga kaino na koi gi Gambhir Singh na yam kana mateng panga Burmese Singh si eventually Kasar da yore Kasar da yore consider they fought a pitched battle with the company and the Manipuris ado kaino Singh na Manipuri Singh dagi East India Company gi troops sing na tanthokre moi si Kasar dagi then Kasar dagi moi si Manipur rom da handokre retreat tawkre ado retreat tawkiba moment sidagi haugadoi neba akoi Manipur gi liberation se the making of early modern Manipur se
okay
yeah ado kamaina tawgeda East India Company su they were not kahani they were not very simpleton. They were not a simpleton haitare. Aduna kaidawge da moina Gambhir Singh da chatlaga kaino si Manipur se liberate ta honda bida. Moigi own troops thai ba General Sheldon mana nupama.
Okay.
Yeah, General Sheldon zina like local experience adigi local knowledge later zina kamaina tawge da mana monsoon gi yamna nong yamna kanna taba matam then yeah adagi Manipur Kasar road si fazana semdriba matam sida mana ut puraga lakpaneba magi transportation gi logistics ke
okay
aduduna adum kaino si Kasar dagi kaino si jiri si haigatlaga ching kakhat kadawba si ngamdreba adum
must have been very bad conditions.
Yeah, it was really bad condition. Then disease, malaria was a huge issue. Okay, the land is hungna mi the malaria na mi ni hina helam neba. Sumba campaign sing sida. Yeah. Ada monsoon gi campaign sida mana utpurga laksale local knowledge ante laitre. Then Manipur yawbang amdre. So yawbang amamda basi akoi Manipuri singi oina di amaram da laibak phabaneba. In the sense that if the company's troop under Sheldon were able to liberate Manipur from the Burmese, then the company had decided that they would take over Manipur. I think Manipur se moina loksal lagi na khalleba. Kay di moina paisa mayam puthoga moi troops kano taraga liberate tawrini, then why should they vacate? It doesn't make any sense for them.
Exactly.
Aduna yeah. Aduna moina fail matung di Gambhir Singh haire that I'll do this and ai Manipur se ai gi keno se liberate tauge na. So mana like during the course of my research I've traveled extensively in Silchar and Kasar, then I've talked to local leaders and communities. Aduna keno gi historically archiving the laitable documents wari oina then keno oina lehoba keno sing
oral history oina
oral history sing si sida aina sum keno taw matamda taw matamda moina smaina haiba haidi akoi gi Manipur liberate taw the force si Manipur levy na haiba Gambhir Singh gi. So initially it was like 500 of them. Adana moi changa si kamaina recruit taw ge hai ganda keno taweba koi lanchak aina masille na haiba. Ada lanchak haibisi gi matlab ti langi kenosi chak se nang sumaina chaw ragadi someone who has partaken in that ritual, he needs to offer his service.
Okay.
My service to military service to offer to the yadeva obligation oina ko aduna mana mi changwa se the mine recruit tawre my own energy and season and then East India Company kanguna nongmai adagi sagon the khusugulai pire ko then retreating to Burmese sing man pursuit awre ka see that the weather was so bad adagi then even the accommodations were so bad, but sida huziki Manipur liberate to campaign sida yamna matamdu the East India Company a very young Pirangi company officer by the name of Pemberton. Pemberton sina mana volunteer to weba ay yaw gen Pemberton ga grant kana ado moibani yaw weba ado Pemberton smaini e ba hadi Manipuri soldiers were very efficient in the sense that the manak nakpa area the lairamba resources into season they set up camps and did everything they could to make their conditions better. Aduga yam nung siwa wane nong adyam kanna taba matam da moido Burmese sing do pursue to no honor patak the giching do lantok na honor pajida they didn't have even anything to eat. And they were virtually fighting on empty stomachs.
Stomachs,
yeah. Aduga chain khara moina phangba su yamna exorbitant price the neighbor. Adi hill gi population sing the moida yola ise. Yeah. So eventually like they pursued the Burmese and then Burmese sing retreat tawre tawuduna Kabo Valley adai da tawre lansok na re. The ningki to kenogi Chinwin River gi ningki to rail gi mapan da lansok na re. Then what happened was the Manipuris fought, so well that the Burmese, kind of thought that they were regular company troops. I think East India Company regular troops or Bengal Army regular troops or winning whatever. Okay, because Gambhir Singh's levy was kind of trained by the British officers.
Mm.
Haidi kenoda Chittagong da chalaga Sylhet chalaga moji train taro baneba matam khara haidi artillery kamai na season ni nomai kamai na season ni ado the maina taro baduna finally yadi keno sing si Burmese sing tak thok hai ningthi turen gi kenoda on the other side then like this moment kind of marked the liberation of Manipur from Burmese influence for once and all. Yeah aduna like I guess there's a lesson, from this, whole episode that, freedom is, not given, it has to be taken. Yeah. I think nangi freedom do say in a lower kuwa I mean, we have to, fight for it.
Fight for
because,
it.
Yeah, because hauji akoy gi kasar da leiriba Manipuri population sing si ay nga kana dum pau phang nei ado Manipuri language sing si Assam da officially recognized taudre ba hoji.
Okay.
Yeah. Assam da recognized taudre then like Burma da leiriba akoy gi Manipuri singdu akoy slave singdu moi gi descendants singdu hoji Meitei maming ko ba yade moi si they have to have a Burmese name adigi da moi gi da Burmese rituals and custom laws follow tawde yade Chittagong da leiba Sylhet da leiba kangbu duna kitang differ adi Burmese kai da leib du compare tawraga di ko but the thing is like adugi Gambhir Singh gi mai gi levy duna akoi do liberate taramdraga di currently we would have been staying somewhere in Sylhet or Chittagong as a second class citizen or even in Kasar as a second class citizen because nangi language to recognize tawde officially Assam Public Service Commission ki pekha tha ba yade wo meteron da hoji so yeah right now as we are speaking there's a huge language movement in Kasar amongst the Manipuri community
among
to
the
kind
Manipuris
of
there
among the Manipuris there adum Manipur se moina adum yamna idealized terms da akoi chatpadi phangdaba Himalaya ni adune da ne yamna patriotic sense of the belonging the lay hai ta
okay
yeah so like adugi matung da akoi gi si Manipur se liberate tawraba matung da Manipur kind of became a military outpost, for the East India Company. The military outpost against Burmese aggression. Burmese sing na any taro ko matam da lan tawgi hena taro ko matam da Manipur si buffer oina thamne ba moina East India Company na. Yeah. Buffer oina thamne.
So at this point, what was the relationship between East India Company and with the Manipur ruler? Was it of like a paramountcy? What was the exact
Yeah.
Was there a contract?
I'll explain that. Because usually what happened was East India Company entered into a subsidiary alliance with the princely states. The Manipur gadi taseng na subsidiary alliance ni haiba treaty mbok sign tawde East India Company.
Okay.
And there was a reason for this because the Burmese were equally very alert on what the company were designs were on Manipur because Gambhir Singh si kanona Manipur gi ruler in East India Company na recognize tawba si Burmese Singh na sungaya deba Burmese Singh na kanoda Marjit Singh na magi Burmese Singh gi vessel ruler oramba do ma oina ohelo Gambhir Singh ohen ganu then kanoda the Burmese were very observant that the company doesn't come as far as Manipur because from Manipur the travel to the Burmese capital was like only 15 days.
Okay.
And so the 15 days so it would have been very uncomfortable for them geopolitically speaking. So subsequently akoi gi matam sida yamna achauba historical kahani loss and memory haigadra akoi Kabo Valley pithoki negotiations sigi matang sida aina matam sida Burmese ki court ta leiba company ki residency Henry Burney kaweba no pama so Henry Burney gi magi diary je aina pa matam da I get a sense what where the sort of negotiations that were happening in the Burmese court ada Manipur se represent tauna ba Captain Grant na da Burmese court la aga wari sana matam da Manipuri sing officers sing ju yauraga lakpa matamda Burmese kenoma I usually very calm Burmese minister spoke in Manipuri. Manipuri da mana hai ba haidi keno tawridu Kabo Valley gi manakta then Ningthi Turing gi manakta thana mayam thamjalido Gambhir Singh na that is really unacceptable. We will never give Kabo Valley to Manipur. Kabo Valley Manipur da sumbi piroi aduna he better take out those thanas from Kabo Valley. Otherwise there will be a second war between the company and Manipur, company and the Burmese. So lan loigra su lan gi threat chetum laiba aduna company na directly treaty ma subsidiary alliance tawraga Manipur si company na protect tawi haiba potu mapan thongda for appearance ek uhan baya da hai tare manung da tacit understanding lai tar ga su
okay
yeah aduna Manipur si matam sida akoi gi ke haini what I used to term as episodic imperial ambition hai tare episodic imperial ambition si matam sida so mung lai ba akoi Manipur da lak pasina kai dauge da Gambhir Singh sina keno da Naga Hills ki yamna problematic oiba frontier kasar si kasar ga keno ga si not Kasar Hills na malai kasar da ching jaga khara not Kasar Hills si ga Naga Hills si ga nakna doi ne ba ado Naga Hills ki angami sing adegi atopa Naga tribe sing moi kumdhara ga raiding taw ga doi ne ba jaga sida or even in the Kasar plains. So this was a kind of a very important administrative and military concern for the company. Okay, the land loy krabina they are on a consolidatory path. Land the mangam give a territory sing do aduda moigi can rule do consolidate the moment ne mo. So adugi moment to the moigi can oina military ally oina quite important over military ally si Manipur ne ba matam sida. Yeah. Aduna Manipur si kanoda hujiki not Kasar Hills ki then Naga Hills ta Gambhir Singh utterly destroyed more than 30 40 villages in the Naga Hills aduga Naga Hills ta chalaga mana landaram basigi magi physical military akoi footprint se ka maine reflect toge hai kanda aina mamang su I bakanda victory stone se akoi mana la maga lan tawrami then conquer tawrami haibagi physical kenoina representation oina adu nungha ga thamam ba like in very ornamented language adu maina keno da Naga Hills si akoina keno tawre pacify tawre adi in the usual bureaucratic language adi pacify tawre subservient oile then to some extent then Khasi Hill su hek keno tawbaga company rules se hek tawrokpa matam sida Silet tagina Guwahati bo lambi sagada usi Khasi Hill phawraga sagada une ado phawraga sagada bo pot sida lambi saba simaktabu it facilitates movement of military troops as well as trade aduna kaidauge da much more easily accessible ohen baduna Khasi singji moi sisu company gi mai intention je doubt tarok hai tare moi imperial ambition laibadu aduda revolt tawre then there was a huge insurrection led by someone called Tirot Singh ko moi leader amna Tikendra leader leader ni maso then keno si Manipur si amuk sigi keno si the theater of keno si the conflict si the amuk we were drawn to that conflict aduna keno sida sigi particular campaign sida iba khahi ngamba na text ama laiba so sigi texting si kamai tawge da akoina imperial ambition he laiba matam akoi regional power yam hene oiba matam da he iba text ne akoi Manipur history da adi chahi chama kanaraga chahi yankai kanaraga iba pot ne ba pangpang iba text na te ba so Gambhir Singh na mai troops se puraga Khasi Hill da chatpasi text na kamai describe tawge haiba matam da akoi Ramayan gi kenoda episode ta Ram na Ayodhya thadoga kenoda Banbas chatpa forest akoi penance to chatpa do exile to chatpa do adu duga comparison taweba so Gambhir Singh is kind of compared to the epic hero Ram aduga Khasi Singh si lan choknaraga keno taw matam da mai gi bravery si kamaina extol tawge hai kanda he is compared to the Mahabharat hero Arjun adi magi bravery se
Okay.
Yeah. So adu khakta natana even in Upper Assam the su matam sida ahom gi moi gi ruling elite sing si yamna divided oiba then security concern si kaigino di Upper Assam gi mathak kakhalaga kenu si Burma gi san country se leidoi ne Upper Burma gi loi samna ba pot ne ba sigi jaga sing se aduna adwai gi frontier du yamna problematic oiba militarily yamna sensitive oiba jaga oibnina kedogeda even there the company wanted that whole country to be made over to Gambhir Singh. Gambhir Singh the pitho ase na Manipur gi Gambhir Singh the pitho ase si jaga se akoi ne rule tawba ngamoi na moi khanaram meba. But yeah, eventually that was not decided. But adu matam sida akoi gi Manipur gi kanu si imperial ambition si yam lai haitare Gambhir Singh se. Aduna even the company was kind of fearful of his imperial ambition. East India Company su ki eba Gambhir Singh gi my imperial ambition se.
Okay.
My troops si matam sida moi lising ani hum lai basi Manipur levy gi they were trained just like the regular company
British troops.
Yeah, British troops. Aduna in one of the reports British ki bureaucracy company ki bureaucracy sing sina kai haige da kai gumba Gambhir Singh na my troops se puraga sile se laga occupy taraga di akoi kem taw ngam moy we are not in a position to stop him but he didn't do that. Yeah. But aduna kai daweda matam sigi akoi gi military adventurism haitare ne akoi je mercenarial tradition je sum chahi kaino khara hadi chahi decades khara sum tawra lak pasina adum lep tab matam sida aduna kai daweda Gambhir Singh na akoi gi chithi ma East India Company de I ba matam sida chithi sida kai haige haiba matam sida East India Company na Firangi is company na notice ki natraga Kenogi company gi any jaga da laiba military problems sing do aduda aigi troops sing ai saga loina personally commanded by me anyway I service tauge adu akoi da just give us a little more land to sustain ourselves kay gino di Manipur si matam si da Burmese sing na ravage storm bane ba population do loina lising mga mugtagi hena laitra bane ba valley population si da impoverished oira bane ba pura ai di chahi like chahi taruk tare low uraktaba hai si taningai thaningai surplus to laitrabne ba aduna kai dawge da it was kind of a means to sustain themselves for them adi kashu yam nungai bagi taw na taba adi they were forced by the circumstance the victim of the circumstance hai tare ne aduna magi letter si da man iribo ton je akoi gi Italian wahai da ha condottieri hai condottieri se akoi gi military keno ne ba sardar hai tare ne super military contractor. So in a sense he is not speaking like a monarch sovereign monarch amagi type to wangang da to he's selling his service selling his services mai can no mai do neta thang du yon ba du ne ba matam du da but he was forced by the
circumstances
circumstances to aduna matam sidagi tasengna effectively modern Manipur gi natraga early modern Manipur gi maker na hairagadi Gambhir Singh natraga magi general haitare magi manau nupa nursing si odoi ne ba so I feel like this moment is this historical period is kind of neglected in our popular imagination as well as other arenas because I feel that khongjom gi narrative sin hen important oibudo
hen important oina
adi state holiday lai adegi nang chahi guding drama sane but but for me as a researcher who has worked for years on this topic I feel that we need to celebrate this moment more to kind of realize what sort of circumstance the Manipuris had to face to kind of gain their independence.
I think it's really important to demystify the past because we have heard we always think of the past in terms of myths, especially Manipur, because it's not very clear to us. I mean, we've never really studied it as subjects in school or even college for that matter. So it has always been a very blurry, mystical place, and ahan laman kitang haiba. So I don't know how true it is. A lot of it is actually exaggerated or underrepresented. Chronology so I think it's really wonderful that you have enlightened me and
Yeah.
whoever's tuning in as well. So I think
Yeah.
if you could say something to people, younger students and
Yeah.
researchers who are up and coming, what kind of message would you like to say to them?
I mean, first of all, I would like to say that it's not going to be an easy journey. Research is a very, painstaking and a very lonely process, because when you start writing, it's a very grueling, task. So, and more than that, it's kind of very difficult, to find your feet, the moment you start out. ꯑꯩꯉꯣꯟꯗ ꯖꯨꯅꯤꯌꯔꯁꯤꯡꯅ ꯑꯗꯨꯝ ꯍꯥꯏꯔꯛꯄ ꯂꯩꯌꯦꯕ ꯇꯥꯃꯣ ꯃꯅꯤꯄꯨꯔꯤ ꯍꯤꯁꯇ꯭ꯔꯤꯁꯦ ꯌꯨꯅꯤꯚꯔꯁꯤꯇꯤꯗꯁꯨ ꯇꯝꯃꯛꯇꯒꯨꯝ ꯇꯧ ꯑꯗꯣ ꯀꯃꯥꯏꯅ ꯀꯔꯥꯏꯗꯒꯤ ꯍꯧꯗꯣꯏꯅꯣ where should I start where should I start where should I finish ꯑꯗꯨ ꯈꯪꯗꯕꯗꯣ ꯑꯗꯣ ꯑꯗꯨꯒꯤ ꯄꯣꯠꯇꯣ ꯑꯩꯅ my take on this thing is that knowledge building is kind of an incremental process. ꯍꯥꯏꯗꯤ ꯍꯥꯟꯅ ꯂꯩꯔꯝꯃꯤꯕ ꯂꯤꯇꯔꯦꯆꯔꯗꯣ ꯐꯖꯅ ꯑꯗꯨꯝ engage ꯇꯧꯕꯤꯌꯣꯕ ꯍꯥꯟꯅ. So even if it's a very poor scholarship, even if it is very uncritical in certain areas, please engage with the existing literature. In that way, it would give a researcher idea, okay, where can I give more stress, where can I put in more effort. Aduga talk to your seniors. Senior what is hano, be resourceful oyu kai degi. You should know, as a social science student or, as a researcher, as a historian or sociologist, sources ka idala ini. Manipur State Archive lairi, then Delhi the National Archive lairi, Guwahati the archive lairi, then even in Silchar district record room the record mayam lairi. I mean, when I look at the records in these archives, I'm not amazed why the British kind of rule over the world. Because the kind of letters, painstaking recording of letters, reports, and that too every week, that too every week.
Yeah, documentation. I mean, you have to give it to them, the kind of documentation they have maintained for almost every place, every small place they have even passed by, the kind of material they have collected and documented about the people they have come across. So it's actually meticulous.
Yeah. So the initial experience, even for me as a young researcher, was kind of awe, in awe of in all the documents. Now that I was, my God, this must document. But after a period of time, after engaging with this, materials, we can we kind of develop the skill, to dissect, what these sources are kind of saying, and where some of the facts are questionable and exaggerated and unreliable. So it's a process. Amukta keshu tawraga yadaw po nateba. I'm still in the process of learning this thing. It never stops. For a researcher, you have to keep on updating your knowledge. And also we won't get paid. Yeah. So even that is a very challenging thing. I think the financial condition the research the focus so I mean it's not an easy decision to make, but I think in terms of the contribution that we can make, however limited, I think it's very important that the work we do.
Definitely. Thank you so much for joining me today. We hope we can continue this conversation some other time again. And thank you so much for enlightening us.
Yeah. Thank you for the invite. I really enjoyed talking to you.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.